The sky above Seoul turned an unnatural shade of metallic green as the massive Zorn mothership breached Earth's atmosphere. Seok Park watched from the observation deck of the Global Defense Command Center, his hands gripping the reinforced glass railing. The alien vessel wasn't just big, it was monstrous, stretching nearly 4 kilometers across, its surface a complex lattice of biomechanical armor that seemed to breathe and pulse with an alien intelligence. Communication systems crackled to life. Ji-woo Kim, standing next to Seok, adjusted her communication headset. The alien transmission wasn't a request. It was a cold, calculated declaration. Every civilization in the known galaxy had already surrendered. Humans were the last remaining obstacle. Attention, Earth inhabitants. The translation software rendered the alien communication in a mechanically precise voice. Your technological capabilities are insignificant. Resistance is mathematically impossible. Prepare for complete integration into the Zorn Imperium. Seok remembered the reports from other planetary systems. Entire civilizations had collapsed. Within hours. The Zorn didn't just conquer, they assimilated. Neural suppression technologies transformed populations into compliant worker units. Entire planetary cultures were erased in moments, but something burned in Seok's chest. A defiance that seemed uniquely human. Outside, smaller Zorn reconnaissance crafts began descending. They looked like liquid metal droplets, constantly shifting and reshaping. Each vessel carried advanced scanning equipment that could map entire planetary defense systems in seconds. Their technology was so advanced it bordered on magic, quantum communication networks, adaptive camouflage, molecular reconstruction capabilities. In the command center, holographic displays showed real-time global reactions. Military installations worldwide were preparing defensive positions. But everyone knew traditional warfare meant nothing against the Zorn. Ji-woo's fingers flew across multiple communication panels. "They're scanning our entire planetary communication grid," she muttered. "They'll know everything about us within minutes." Seok watched a small group of reconnaissance drones break from the main formation. They moved with an unsettling precision, not like machines, but like a collective intelligence. Each drone was roughly the size of a motorcycle, with multiple sensory appendages that constantly reshaped themselves. "They're mapping our major cities," an analyst called out. "Seoul, New York, Mumbai, Lagos, they're creating comprehensive invasion strategies in real time." The first wave of Zorn ground units began materializing near major metropolitan areas. They weren't traditional soldiers, they were biomechanical constructs, part organic, part machine. Each unit could adapt to multiple environmental conditions, switch between combat and support roles instantly, and communicate through a collective neural network. But something was different about Earth's response. Instead of panic, there was a strange calm. Military units weren't just preparing defensive positions, they were implementing unconventional strategies. Communication networks were being deliberately fragmented. Critical infrastructure was being prepared for rapid decentralization. Seok noticed something in the drone's movement, a slight hesitation, a microsecond of uncertainty. "They're confused," he whispered to Ji-woo. She raised an eyebrow. "Confused? By what?" "By us," Seok replied. "We're not following any predictable response pattern." The Zorn mothership continued hovering, casting an enormous shadow across Seoul. Its presence was a silent threat, a technological marvel that represented the pinnacle of galactic conquest. But beneath that massive ship, in command centers, underground bunkers, and ordinary homes, something was brewing. A resistance unlike anything the Zorn had ever encountered. Humanity was preparing to fight, not with traditional weapons, not with expected strategies, but with something far more dangerous, their unpredictable spirit. End of Part 1. The Underground. Resistance network hummed with an electric intensity. Hana Choi's fingers danced across holographic interfaces, her eyes reflecting lines of rapidly changing code. Around her, a makeshift command center buzzed with activity. Young engineers, retired military personnel, and tech specialists worked side by side. Outside, The Zorn's neural suppression waves swept across cities. Most alien invasions would have crushed resistance by now, but humans weren't most species. They're using quantum frequency modulation, Hana muttered, breaking down the alien communication systems. But our communication networks aren't centralized like other civilizations. We're chaos incarnate. Across different continents, underground resistance cells activated simultaneously. In a small garage in Busan, a team of engineers modified commercial drones. In a remote mountain facility, computer scientists developed viral algorithms designed to disrupt alien neural networks. In urban centers, ordinary citizens began preparing unconventional resistance strategies. The Zorn had conquered hundreds of civilizations. Each conquest followed a predictable pattern: identify leadership, neutralize communication systems, suppress individual thinking. But humans were different. Their strength wasn't in uniform response, but in individual creativity. A young programmer named June discovered something peculiar. The Zorn's neural suppression technology worked through precise mathematical algorithms, but human brain patterns were inherently unpredictable. Emotions, random thoughts, irrational decisions, these were weapons against a perfectly calculated invasion. They can't comprehend randomness, June explained to his team. Our unpredictability is our greatest defense. Military strategists realized traditional combat was useless. The Zorn's technological superiority was overwhelming. Their biomechanical combat units could adapt to any weapon system within milliseconds. Tanks, fighter jets, advanced missiles, all would be neutralized instantly. So humans chose a different approach. Information warfare became the primary strategy. Instead of direct confrontation, resistance groups began flooding alien communication networks with complex, nonsensical data, memes, random music tracks, philosophical debates, mathematical paradoxes, a tsunami of human randomness designed to overwhelm their precise systems. In space, small satellite networks began broadcasting signals that looked like normal communication but contained deeply complex computational traps. Each transmission was a potential virus, a digital IED waiting to detonate within the Zorn's network. Hana's team developed something extraordinary: adaptive communication algorithms that could reshape themselves instantaneously. Traditional networks had fixed structures. These new human networks were living, breathing entities that could transform at a moment's notice. Underground workshops became innovation centers. Old smartphones were transformed into communication disruptors. Industrial machinery was modified into potential weapons. 3D printers worked overtime, creating components that could interfere with alien scanning technologies. The global resistance wasn't just a military operation, it was a collective human response. Artists, engineers, teachers, farmers, students, everyone contributed their unique skills. A small drone reconnaissance team discovered something shocking. Human communication wasn't just about information transfer. It was emotional, illogical, filled with nuance that no computational system could fully understand. Jokes, sarcasm, cultural references, these were weapons more powerful than any missile. They can calculate, Seok explained during a global strategy meeting, but they can't understand why we laugh in the face of impossible odds. The Zorn watched in increasing confusion. Their invasion algorithms showed a 99.9% probability of immediate planetary surrender. Yet humans were doing something entirely unexpected. They were turning the entire invasion into a complex, multi-layered game of psychological warfare. Small resistance cells began sharing innovative disruption techniques. A group of high school students discovered how to use home Wi-Fi routers to create micro-interference zones. Urban community centers became training grounds for digital resistance. The invasion was hours old, but humans had already transformed the battlefield. Not through traditional weapons, but through something far more powerful: their collective, unpredictable spirit. The resistance wasn't just beginning, it was evolving. End of Part 2. The cityscape of Seoul transformed into a living, breathing resistance network. Doha Lee's specialized cyber warfare unit operated from a hidden command center buried beneath an abandoned shopping complex. Vintage computer systems mixed with cutting-edge quantum processors created a technological ecosystem that defied traditional understanding. Outside, Zorn reconnaissance units moved like liquid metal, scanning streets and buildings. But humans had already turned the entire urban landscape into a complex technological trap. "We're not fighting," Doha told her team. "We're reimagining warfare." Street vendors' electronic payment systems became signal disruptors. Public transportation networks transformed into communication relay points. Even children's smart toys became potential weapons against the alien invasion. In a small electronics repair shop, an elderly technician named Wu discovered how to modify standard air conditioning units to generate electromagnetic pulses that could temporarily blind Zorn scanning equipment. What looked like a routine maintenance workshop became a critical resistance production line. University research labs across the country began rapid prototyping adaptive technologies. Agricultural control systems were transformed into complex communication networks. Farming sensors designed to monitor crop health became advanced scanning interference devices. The Zorn's primary weakness was their reliance on precise, predictable systems. Humans introduced controlled chaos into every technological interaction. Satellite networks traditionally used for weather monitoring now became sophisticated jamming platforms. Communication towers designed for mobile networks were reconfigured to generate complex interference patterns that confused alien scanning technologies. Doha's team developed something revolutionary, a distributed computing network that could reshape itself instantaneously. Unlike traditional centralized systems, this network was alive, constantly changing, impossible to predict or contain. "We're creating a digital immune system," she explained to her colleagues. "Not a weapon, but a living resistance mechanism." Urban environments became multi-layered resistance platforms. Subway tunnels transformed into communication relay points. Rooftop gardens became advanced sensor camouflage zones. Every street, every building became part of a complex defensive strategy. Industrial zones were rapidly converted. Manufacturing robots originally designed for automobile production were modified to generate specific electromagnetic frequencies. Laser cutting machines became precision scanning disruptors. Welding equipment transformed into potential defensive technologies. The resistance wasn't just technological, it was deeply human. A group of university students discovered how to use social media algorithms to generate communication noise that could overwhelm alien data processing systems. What looked like random internet chatter became a sophisticated defensive mechanism. Zorn combat units found themselves increasingly confused. Their advanced scanning technologies encountered unexpected interference. Communication networks they expected to be linear and predictable became complex, shifting landscapes of information. Traditional military strategies became obsolete. Humans weren't fighting a conventional war. They were conducting a complex, multi-layered psychological operation that challenged the very foundation of alien invasion protocols. Community centers became training grounds for technological resistance. Elderly citizens with electrical engineering backgrounds trained younger generations in rapid technological adaptation. What looked like simple community workshops became critical resistance development centers. Agricultural research stations developed new crop monitoring technologies that could generate specific electronic interference patterns. Farming sensors became advanced scanning disruptors. What was once designed to monitor plant health now became a weapon against technological invasion. Doha watched real-time resistance maps. Every city, every region was developing its own unique resistance strategy. There was no central command, no single point of control, just a living, breathing network of human creativity. "They can calculate," she whispered, watching Zorn units become increasingly confused. "But they can't understand randomness." The invasion was no longer about technological superiority. It had become a complex game of human innovation where every citizen was a potential resistance fighter and every system was a potential weapon. Humanity wasn't just resisting, they were rewriting the entire concept of warfare. End of Part 3. The morning light broke through scattered smoke and electrical interference, casting an eerie glow across Seoul's transformed landscape. June Park stood at the window of a makeshift research facility, his eyes tracing the complex network of modified agricultural control systems that now formed the backbone of humanity's most innovative defense strategy. Zorn invasion units had begun to show signs of unprecedented weakness. Their supposedly invincible biomechanical infrastructure was slowly unraveling under a barrage of human creativity. June's background in agricultural engineering had become humanity's most unexpected weapon. What began as research into crop optimization had transformed into a revolutionary electromagnetic pulse technology that could systematically disrupt alien technological systems. "It's not about destroying," June explained to his team. "It's about understanding their technological ecosystem and introducing controlled disruption." Massive agricultural monitoring stations, originally designed to track crop health across different regions, now served as massive electromagnetic pulse generators. Satellite networks intended for weather tracking became sophisticated scanning, interference platforms. Irrigation control systems transformed into advanced communication disruption networks. The Zorn's invasion strategy relied on precise, predictable technological interactions. Humans introduced something they couldn't comprehend: controlled, intelligent chaos. In research facilities across the country, teams worked around the clock. Old satellite communication equipment mixed with cutting-edge quantum processors. Farming sensors designed for monitoring soil moisture now generated complex electronic interference patterns. What looked like routine agricultural monitoring had become a sophisticated technological resistance mechanism. Zorn combat units found themselves increasingly confused. Their advanced scanning technologies encountered multi-layered interference that defied conventional understanding. Communication networks they expected to be linear became complex, shifting landscapes of technological noise. A team of young engineers discovered how to use greenhouse environmental control systems to generate specific electromagnetic frequencies. Climate control technologies designed to maintain perfect growing conditions now became potential weapons against technological invasion. The resistance wasn't just technological, it was deeply human. Community workshops transformed ordinary citizens into technological innovators. Elderly electrical engineers trained younger generations in rapid technological adaptation. What looked like simple community classes became critical resistance. Development centers. June's breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Agricultural irrigation control systems, designed to manage water distribution across massive farming regions, could generate precise electromagnetic pulse patterns that could temporarily disable advanced technological systems. "We're not fighting," he told his team. "We're introducing a technological immune response." Across different regions, modified agricultural monitoring stations began generating synchronized electromagnetic pulses. These weren't traditional weapons. They were intelligent, adaptive technological disruption mechanisms that could reshape themselves instantaneously. Zorn invasion units found their advanced scanning technologies increasingly compromised. Communication networks became complex, shifting landscapes of technological interference. Their precise, calculated invasion strategy began to unravel. Urban environments transformed into multi-layered resistance platforms. Subway tunnels became communication relay points. Rooftop gardens served as advanced sensor camouflage zones. Every street, every building became part of a complex defensive strategy. Industrial zones rapidly converted. Manufacturing robots originally designed for production were modified to generate specific electromagnetic frequencies. Laser cutting machines became precision scanning disruptors. Welding equipment transformed into potential defensive technologies. The global resistance wasn't a military operation. It was a collective human response. Artists, engineers, teachers, farmers, students, everyone contributed their unique skills to a massive interconnected resistance network. June watched real-time resistance maps. Every region developed its own unique technological defense strategy. There was no central command, no single point of control. just a living, breathing network of human creativity. "They can calculate," he whispered, watching Zorn units become increasingly confused, "but they can't understand our ability to reimagine everything." The invasion had transformed from a technological confrontation into a complex game of human innovation. Every citizen was a potential resistance fighter, and every system was a potential weapon. Humanity wasn't just resisting, they were rewriting the entire concept of technological warfare. End of Part 4. The sky above Seoul crackled with electromagnetic energy, a testament to humanity's final stand against the Zorn Imperium. Yuna Kim stood on the makeshift command bridge, her fingers dancing across holographic interfaces that seemed to breathe with living intelligence. Weeks of resistance had transformed into something far beyond a simple planetary defense. Humanity had become a living, adaptive organism, each citizen a cell in a complex, unpredictable network of resistance. The Zorn mothership hung massive and menacing, its biomechanical hull now riddled with unexplained system failures. What had begun as a seemingly inevitable conquest had become the aliens' worst nightmare. Massive electromagnetic pulses generated from agricultural monitoring stations swept across the invasion zones. What looked like simple farming technology had become humanity's most sophisticated weapon. Irrigation control systems, crop monitoring satellites, and environmental sensors worked in a synchronized dance of technological disruption. "They can't understand us," Yuna muttered to her team. "We're not just fighting, we're evolving." Across the planet, resistance had taken on a life of its own. Community centers became innovation hubs. Elderly electrical engineers trained younger generations in technological adaptation. What looked like simple workshops had become critical resistance development centers. The Zorn's invasion strategy relied on precise, predictable technological interactions. Humans introduced something entirely unexpected, controlled, intelligent, chaos that defied all computational predictions. Zorn combat units found themselves increasingly compromised. Their advanced scanning technologies encountered multi-layered interference that challenged everything in their invasion protocols. Communication networks they expected to be linear became complex, shifting landscapes of technological noise. In urban centers, every system became a potential weapon. Subway networks transformed into communication relay points. Rooftop gardens served as advanced sensor camouflage zones. Street vendor payment systems became signal disruptors. Public transportation networks turned into communication platforms. A young programmer named Junho discovered a critical vulnerability in the Zorn's neural network. By introducing complex, emotionally charged data patterns, he created a technological virus that spread like wildfire through alien communication systems. "Emotions are our weapon," Junho explained during a global strategy meeting. "They can calculate, but they can't understand why we laugh in the face of impossible odds." Industrial zones became transformation centers. Manufacturing robots modified to generate specific electromagnetic frequencies. Laser cutting machines became precision scanning disruptors. Welding equipment transformed into defensive technologies. The Zorn leadership watched in increasing desperation. Their invasion algorithms showed a 99.9% probability of planetary surrender. Yet humans continued to do something entirely unexpected, turning the entire invasion into a complex, multi-layered psychological warfare operation. Yuna's team had developed something revolutionary, a distributed communication network that could reshape itself instantaneously. Unlike traditional systems, this network was alive, constantly changing, impossible to predict or contain. "We're creating a digital immune system," she told her colleagues. "Not a weapon, but a living resistance mechanism." As the final confrontation approached, humanity demonstrated something far more powerful than technological superiority. They showed an unbreakable spirit of adaptation, creativity, and collective innovation. The Zorn mothership began to show critical system failures. Massive sections of its biomechanical hull flickered and destabilized. Communication networks collapsed. Invasion units became increasingly isolated and confused. Junho's emotional data virus continued to spread, introducing complex, unpredictable patterns that challenged the very foundation of alien computational thinking. What looked like simple communication became a sophisticated psychological weapon. In the final moments, the Zorn leadership realized something terrifying. Humans were not just fighting. They were reimagining the entire concept of resistance, warfare and technological interaction. Una watched as the first Zorn ships began their retreat, not through military defeat, but through a complete breakdown of their invasion strategy. Humanity had done something no civilization had ever accomplished. They had turned a seemingly impossible situation into a testament of human creativity and resilience. The sky cleared. The mothership began to withdraw. Humanity had not just survived. They had transformed the very understanding of resistance. End of Part 5.